In Chapter 5, we're going to look at ordering and storage of food products. It is important that you order your foods from proper sources. All meats that you get must have the mark of inspection. They can either be federally inspected, in which case they are USDA approved, or they can be state inspected, which is equal to USDA approved, but the inspection is done by the North Dakota Department of Agriculture. All fish must be commercially caught. Eggs must be grade A or grade AA. Milk must be grade A and it must be pasteurized. Your breads must come from approved bakeries, or you must make them in-house in your establishment. Canned goods must be professionally processed, and ice must be made from potable water. Some examples of non-approved foods include anything that is home canned or home pickled. You may not have home canned or home pickled products in your establishment. Any eggs that are from a non-licensed or non-approved egg producer, so local eggs. And then any kind of custom processed meat. If the meat says not for sale, it is not for use in your establishment. When receiving foods, it is important to inspect the deliveries right away. Refrigerated foods should be received at temperatures below 41. It is important to take their temperature and verify that they are out of the danger zone. If you receive refrigerated food items that are above 41, you should reject them. For frozen food items, it is important to make sure that they are received frozen. Make sure that all food packaging is intact. Reject all unacceptable supplies, and then put the foods into the appropriate storage areas as soon as possible. There are a lot of aspects of intact packaging. Food packages should be clean. If they show signs of filth or contamination, they should be rejected. Bags must not be torn open or show signs of having been contaminated by liquids. Metal cans must not be dented on the seams or leaking. Metal cans must not be swollen or bulged. Do not ever use food from a swollen can. It is actually a good idea to not ever open swollen or bulged cans. Plastic or glass jars must be sealed and must not be leaking, and it is possible for plastic containers to swell also, so be on the lookout for that. It is important to put your food into the proper type of storage as soon as possible. There are 3 types of food storage: cold storage, hot storage, or dry storage. For potentially hazardous foods, it is important to keep them out of the danger zone. The danger zone is the temperature range between 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 135 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the range in which harmful bacteria multiply best. It's important to keep foods below 41 degrees Fahrenheit when storing them cold in things like refrigerators and salad bars, and it's important to keep hot foods above 135 degrees Fahrenheit when storing them in things like steam tables and buffet lines. If your foods get into the temperature range of the danger zone, between 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 131 degrees Fahrenheit, bacteria can divide and multiply on potentially hazardous foods. Potentially hazardous foods, also called time temperature control for safety foods, are those that require time and or temperature control for safety to limit the growth of pathogenic microorganisms or the formation of toxins. Bacterial multiplication can begin in as few as 4 hours at danger zone temperatures. If potentially hazardous foods are in the danger zone for 4 hours or more, they may not be safe to eat and must be thrown away. This is a list of foods that are considered to be potentially hazardous foods. Any animal food that is raw or heat treated, so raw meat products or cooked meat products, dairy products like milk and cheese, butter, and eggs. Any food of plant origin that's been cooked, or any food of plant origin that is consisting of raw seed sprouts like alfalfa sprouts or bean sprouts. Any kind of a cut melon like watermelon, honeydew, or cantaloupe. Any garlic and oil mixture. Any raw cut tomatoes. And any cut leafy greens like kale, lettuce, spinach, or escarole. This category does not include herbs such as basil. Be aware, foods that are not potentially hazardous foods can still carry the microorganisms that can cause disease. In a study that appeared in the Journal of Environmental Health, it was shown that non-potentially hazardous foods can still carry contamination. Lemon slices were collected from 21 different restaurants, and both the rinds and flesh of the lemon slices was sampled. It was found that 70% of the lemon slices were contaminated with bacteria, viruses, or fungi that all had the potential to cause disease in humans. We're now going to look at proper storage of potentially hazardous foods. You can put these foods into cold storage, which includes refrigerated storage and frozen storage, or hot storage, which includes hot holding. Refrigerated storage must be done at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Do not overcrowd items in a refrigerator. You need to leave room for air to move to cool things down. It's important to monitor foods in a refrigerator with a thermometer that is easily visible and located in the warmest part of the refrigerator. Check the temperatures regularly. This is an example of proper refrigerated storage organization. First, notice the cleanliness of the refrigerator. Second, notice how all the foods are covered. Third, notice how the raw meat products are on the bottom and the ready-to-eat foods are above them. This prevents any drippage from raw meat products from coming into contact with ready-to-eat foods and contaminating them. Frozen storage must be done at 0 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Keep in mind that freezing does not kill bacteria, so if you have raw meat products, freezing them does not kill all the bacteria on them and make them safe. It is important to defrost freezers regularly. You should label and date all foods that go into your freezer. Keep the freezer as full as you can for best efficiency, and monitor the temperature of the freezer with a thermometer. Potentially hazardous foods that are being held warm must be held at a temperature of 135 degrees Fahrenheit or more. In this example, you can see a buffet line. Notice how all the food is protected by a sneeze guard, and how all of the different dishes have their own serving utensils. Equipment used for hot holding must be able to hold the food at a temperature that is at least 135 degrees. If you have a steam table and the steam table is only able to hold foods at 100 degrees, it should not be used for hot holding. It is important to check the temperatures of hot held food regularly and to stir the foods often to distribute heat. Non-potentially hazardous foods can be held in dry storage. In dry storage, if you can, keep all foods in the original container or package. If you have to put foods in bulk containers, label them with the common name for their contents. For example, sugar, salt, or cornstarch. With food that is being held in storage, it is always a good idea to practice first in, first out. Label foods with dates. Any foods that are put into the refrigerator should be labeled with the date they are made, and any foods put into dry storage should be labeled with the date they are received. It is important to store food only in food storage areas, and to store only food in food storage areas. Keep your dry foods dry. You want to protect food being stored from any drips from above, protect them from pooled water or standing water, and don't store food under exposed sewer lines or exposed water lines. When storing food, store the food in clean, covered containers. Store food, even food in covered containers, at least 6 inches above the floor. If you are not actively working with the food, then it should be covered, and it is important to store raw meats below other foods. Food may not be stored in any locker room, any garbage room, under open stairwells, in any bathroom, or in any vestibule. If you have damaged foods that you retain to return to your supplier, then you must keep them separate from your regular food supply in a damaged goods area. This area needs to be labeled as damaged goods only and to not use. This is the end of Chapter 5.